If there were any fighters in World War II who would stop at nothing to exact vengeance on the Nazis, it was the X Troop, an elite squad of German Jews who had escaped the horrors of the Holocaust and made it to Britain. Now, they were commandos on a mission to liberate their families and take down the Third Reich. X Troop was renowned for never backing down, no matter how perilous the mission was. Under the cover of night, George Lane was covertly landed on the beaches of northern France. His mission? Confirm the existence of a devastating new mine that could sabotage the D-Day landings. After successfully gathering intelligence on 2 separate operations, Lane was captured during a third. He knew what that meant: execution under Hitler's Commando order. But fate had other plans. Blindfolded and taken to a secret location, Lane found himself face to face with Field Marshal Erwin Rommel. This clever Jewish soldier, a master of deception with nerves of steel, managed to charm the Desert Fox, concealing his true identity as a German Jew. Instead of execution, he was sent to a prisoner of war camp. In the camp, Lane revealed to other British prisoners that he had peeked out from his blindfold and recognized Rommel's location. Using a book from the camp's library, they confirmed the specific chateau and relayed the intel to London via a smuggled radio. Days later, a British plane targeted Rommel as he left his headquarters. The bombs missed his car, but the blast violently hurled the vehicle, leaving Rommel badly wounded. This strike took the Desert Fox out of the war. That was just one of the spectacular feats these German Jewish commandos pulled off. From the beaches of Normandy to the forests of Belgium, crossing the Rhine and storming into Frankfurt, nothing could stop these determined men from claiming their revenge. War was brewing in Europe, a volatile mix of nationalism, past resentments, anti-Semitism, and economic turmoil reaching a boiling point. As Hitler rose to power in Germany, thousands of Jews fled their homes in Austria, Germany, and Eastern Europe, seeking refuge in the British Isles. They hoped to build new lives and bide their time, waiting for the chance to fight back against their Nazi oppressors. However, despite their eagerness to join the fight against the Third Reich, German Jews in Britain were often met with suspicion and disdain. Their German origins cast a shadow of doubt, branding them as potential Nazi spies. In one of the darkest chapters of British modern history, collective hysteria and fear of German refugees led the UK to implement an infamous policy, sending refugees to internment camps. Colonel Henry Burton, a Conservative member for Sudbury, echoed the sentiment of many Britons when he asked Parliament if it would not be, quote, "far better to intern all the lot and then pick out the good ones." The term fifth column became a fixture in British society, encapsulating the fear that German refugees were secretly working to undermine the UK from within. A Daily Mail article of the time blared, quote, "all refugees should be drafted without delay to a remote part of the country and kept under strict supervision. You fail to realize that every German is an agent." This distorted notion led to the tragic internment of many traumatized Holocaust survivors who had escaped Germany only to face brutal conditions in internment camps across the British Isles and Commonwealth territories. There, they endured forced labor, discrimination, and malnourishment, adding another layer of suffering to their already harrowing experiences. Many defiant and skilled German Jews, eager to enlist and fight against the Nazis, found themselves instead building railroads and digging holes under the watchful eyes of British guards. However, the attack on Pearl Harbor changed everything. The British government reversed its policy, and most of the German Jewish prisoners were finally freed. A significant number of them immediately enlisted in the British armed forces, practically begging for the chance to fight against the Nazis. Yet again, the German Jews were deemed untrustworthy to join the battlefront and be given weapons. Instead, they were sent to the Pioneer Corps, a unit established to carry out essential labor duties. The Corps was involved in constructing fortifications, repairing infrastructure, loading and unloading supplies, and other logistical operations crucial to maintaining the British Army's operational efficiency. Comprising mostly individuals deemed unfit for frontline combat, the Corps provided a vital workforce that allowed combat units to focus on fighting. These Jewish men, eager to contribute to the war effort, found a way to do so, while the British, wary of giving German nationals guns, were also satisfied. As the war engulfed the world, German Jews serving in the Pioneer Corps began pleading with their superiors, writing letters expressing their desperation to fight the Germans and save their families from being exterminated by Hitler's regime. After thousands of letters, the British High Command finally recognized the potential of a unit of highly skilled German-speaking commandos. They selected the best and brightest and established the X-Troop. X-Troop was on the verge of becoming legendary. These men, who had endured suspicion and internment, now had a singular focus: vengeance against the Nazis. Their fluency in German and intimate knowledge of Nazi tactics made them a weapon the enemy did not expect. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill was a fervent supporter of commando units and the ability of these highly trained men to change the course of the war. With that in mind, he formed the No. 10 Commando, a collection of subunits composed mainly of non-British personnel from Nazi-occupied countries. Churchill's vision for these forces was clear: to instill a reign of terror along the enemy coastline. Several subunits, known as troops, emerged from this initiative, including French, Dutch, and Belgian contingents. However, the most distinctive of these was the X-Troop, established in 1942 and predominantly made up of German nationals, many of whom were Jewish refugees. The majority of X-Troop's members were Jewish, hand-selected from thousands of eager recruits. Only the best, the most skilled, and those most proficient in English were considered for this elite unit. Many recruits were transferred from the Pioneer Corps and sent to London, where they underwent strenuous evaluations by MI5 and rigorous training in combat, counterintelligence, and interrogation. They were chosen and led by Brian Hilton Jones. All members of X-Troop adopted British names and false identities. For the remainder of their military service, they had to pretend to be native British soldiers. A total of 130 men served in X-Troop, but they never fought as a complete unit. Instead, they provided valuable service to other formations as interpreters, interrogators, and counterintelligence agents. The British Command's decision to disperse the X-Troop rather than keep them as a single unit served two purposes. The noble aim was to leverage the unique advantages of highly trained, German-speaking operatives across various units. However, there was also a lingering suspicion that these fighters might turn against the British, and spreading them out was an additional measure to prevent any potential collusion. X-Troopers had to fully embrace their false identities, even fabricating complex backstories to explain their accents, such as claiming they were raised by a German nanny or studied abroad. These soldiers were among the brightest and most resourceful, learning English to near native proficiency in just a few years. The members of X-Troop were among the most dedicated and fierce fighters of World War II. For them, the war wasn't just about defending their adopted homeland from invasion. It was a deeply personal battle against the Nazi regime that had imprisoned and exterminated their families. Their passion for defeating Nazi Germany was unmatched. The determination of the X-Troopers was legendary. Often anxious to be sent to the front line, their resolve was summed up by one member. Quote, "Where some soldiers were drawing straws to see who got to stay back from the most dangerous missions, the X-Troops were drawing straws to see who got to do the most dangerous missions." Many members of the X-Troop played leading roles during the D-Day landings, including serving in the iconic bicycle regiments. They landed carrying bicycles, rushing enemy positions ahead of everyone else to secure bunkers and machine gun nests. Their bravery and strategic importance were crucial in the Allied effort to reclaim Europe. On the eve of D-Day, 43 X-Troopers were integrated into 8 commando units, ready for the monumental invasion. Brigadier Simon Fraser, known as Lord Lovat, the famed Scottish soldier who stormed Normandy to the tune of bagpipes, delivered a stirring address. Quote, "You will shortly be embarking on ships for the invasion of France. You are the tip of the spear, the fine cutting edge of the British Expeditionary Force. You men should expect a physical encounter in which you have had no equal. You know your job, and I know that you will not fail. Remember, the bigger the challenge, the better we play. History will tell that in our age there were giants who walked the earth, and by God we are going to prove that tomorrow. As dawn broke over the fortified beaches of Normandy, Manfred Ganz was among the first ex-troopers to land. The moment his boots hit the sand, half his unit was decimated by relentless German fire. Yet Ganz pressed on, capturing an enemy position and taking 25 German officers prisoner. In their native tongue, he demanded they reveal the location of the mines, ensuring the safe passage of his comrades across the beachhead, saving countless lives. Peter Masters descended from the landing craft on the first day of the invasion at Sword Beach, unfolded his collapsible bicycle, and dashed across the battlefield to secure his objective. His bicycle regiment was the first to cross the highly contested Pegasus Bridge, ensuring no German reinforcements could flank the British troops on Sword Beach. 15 minutes later, Lord Lovat and his men reached Pegasus Bridge. Lovat turned to Bill Millin, his piper, and as he made his heroic entrance onto the bridge, he ordered, quote, "Right, piper, start the pipes again." For years, Lovat and his men received credit for being the first to reach the bridge, leaving Masters and the other men who actually accomplished the feat without recognition. But this mattered little to Masters, who was not in it for the glory but for vengeance against the Nazis and to end the war. Masters' humble approach was evident 12 days after reaching Pegasus Bridge. During the Battle of Breville, Lord Lovat's luck ran out. As they saw the 51st Highland Division engage in artillery fire, a stray round missed its mark. The shrapnel tore into Lovat and several other officers, inflicting severe injuries on Lovat and taking the life of Lieutenant Colonel A.P. Johnson, the commanding officer of the 12th Parachute Battalion. In the chaos, the gravely wounded Lovat was left to his fate. Masters saved his life by dragging him to safety amid the turmoil, allowing him to receive medical assistance. As the war progressed and ex-troopers advanced deeper into Germany, they continued to demonstrate formidable bravery, remarkable determination, and unparalleled skill. Corporal Ian Harris, originally Hans Ludwig Hayos, entered war-torn Germany with a mix of anger and resolve. As he charged enemy positions, he wondered if he might be shooting at old schoolmates from his days in Germany. With a bitter thought, he hoped so. Brutally bullied and beaten for being a Jew, his rage towards the Nazis was deep-seated. At 18, he had fled his school in Vienna, unable to endure the relentless persecution any longer. Harris had escaped Nazi Germany, made it to England, and joined the ex-troops. Now he was back in Germany, fueled by a desire for revenge. On April 6, 1945, ex-trooper Ian Harris crossed the River Weser with the 45 Commando unit. They faced ferocious resistance. Along the riverbank, Hitler Youth had dug trenches, fighting tenaciously with precise small arms fire. Corporal Harris led the charge through utter chaos. Some Germans attacked while others desperately tried to surrender. Harris ran along the front, capturing Germans and ordering them to the rear. As he reached one enemy soldier, he saw the man reach for a grenade. Harris smashed his Tommy gun into the man's teeth, tore off the jacket with the grenade and hurled it into the river. He kicked the soldier down and took him prisoner. Realizing they had overrun a series of German slit trenches, Harris saw that 15 or so commandos behind him were about to be mowed down by German machine guns. With no hesitation, Harris ran straight at the German gunners, firing his Thompson. He shot 2 men, grabbed a third, and threw him down the bank, saving his comrades. Suddenly, 2 enemies charged at him. Harris and the Germans were out of ammo, forcing them into brutal hand-to-hand combat. With sheer determination, Harris disarmed them and took them prisoner. Yet he wasn't done fighting. How could he be without ammunition? Behind him, a terrified replacement private struggled with a Bren gun. Harris barked, quote, "What the hell are you waiting for, man? Give me your Bren." Harris seized the gun and unleashed a barrage of bullets on the advancing Germans. An entire platoon was trying to overrun their position. After fending off the initial wave, Harris used his fluent German to demand the surrender of an SS battalion's commanding officer without firing a shot. But the battle was far from over. The Germans fell in waves but kept coming, their fanaticism and fearlessness driving them forward despite the relentless British fire. The Hitler Youth SS were undeterred, and the fight was relentless until their advance finally faltered. Amid the chaos, Harris's beret fell off. As he picked it up, a bullet struck the magazine of his Bren gun, sending shrapnel flying and wounding him in the eye. He fell and rolled down the bank, seriously injured but alive. He was loaded onto a dinghy and ferried back across the river for medical care. Despite the carnage, Harris felt no regret. Quote, "These were the SS. Some might have been my former classmates. I knew all about them, and I felt so proud that I had accomplished what I had set out to do, get my own back." Harris survived, though he lost his eye and wore an eye patch with considerable style for the rest of his life. For his bravery, he was awarded the Military Medal. Reflecting on the honor, he said, quote, "There weren't many medals going around for refugee boys from Vienna." Due to their unique background and specialized training, ex-troopers had the advantage of interrogating German prisoners on the spot in fluent German, bypassing the need to send them back to headquarters. This immediate intelligence often led to decisive and massive victories. A prime example was when Peter Masters coerced 2 German intelligence officers into revealing the locations of enemy positions on the outskirts of Wesel, Germany. This crucial information enabled the British to secure the Rhine crossing. Crossing the Rhine dealt a devastating blow to the already weakened German forces, pushing Nazi Germany closer to inevitable defeat. Ex-troopers rarely stayed with the same unit throughout the war. Allied authorities frequently moved them from one command to another to maximize their unique skills. After Peter Masters was transferred to a new regiment, he was sent ahead of his comrades to draw enemy fire. Being the new guy with the accent made him the obvious choice. As he approached the enemy position, he felt certain he was not coming back. Yet he was willing to make that sacrifice to defeat the Nazis. Suddenly, a wild idea flashed through his mind. He remembered the movie Gunga Din. Channeling one of its fictional characters, he began shouting in German, ordering the enemy to surrender, claiming they were completely surrounded. The Germans, shocked to hear orders in a native German voice, hesitated. Instead of firing, they emerged from cover to assess the situation. The Allies seized the moment, storming the enemy position and forcing their surrender without losing a single life. When the war finally reached its final weeks, many ex-troop members prioritized finding and rescuing their family members before they could be executed by the desperate Nazis. Upon discovering that his parents were in Theresienstadt concentration camp in Czechoslovakia, Manfred Ganz obtained permission to drive a jeep and embarked on an epic journey from the Western Front to the Eastern Front. When he finally reached Czechoslovakia, Soviet soldiers were stunned to see a lone British soldier on the Eastern Front. Ganz arrived at Theresienstadt just as the Soviets were about to liberate the camp. He sprinted into the camp, frantically asking everyone he saw about his parents. A woman directed him to a building where he finally reunited with his parents, rescuing them from the horrific conditions of the concentration camp. Ganz later recalled, quote, "I suddenly find myself in their arms. They are both crying wildly. It sounds like the crying of despair. I look at father, and despite having prepared myself for a lot, I have to bite my teeth together not to show my shark. He is hardly recognizable, completely starved and wrecked." Ex-troop member Colin Anson had a similarly harrowing experience. His father had been Jewish, and Anson was assigned to the Field Intelligence Agency Technical in Frankfurt. Gathering intelligence on German technological advances for post-war purposes, Anson used his time in Frankfurt to search for his mother, who had been left behind in the city. He describes their reunion, quote, "I started up the stairs and called her name and heard my mother coming down from the top floor. I rushed up and embraced her. Initially, his traumatized mother did not recognize her own son. Sobbing, she recounted how his father had lost his life in Dachau camp and how she had been abused for not divorcing her Jewish husband after his arrest. Fred Jackson faced a different kind of torment. Tasked with interrogating Nazi war criminal Rudolf Höss, the commander of Auschwitz-Birkenau camp, Jackson confronted the man responsible for his mother's demise. After questioning Höss, Jackson was shattered. Quote, "I got drunk for a week. I just could not live with myself." From escaping the horrors of the Holocaust to being ostracized in Britain, storming the beaches at D-Day, and ultimately freeing their families in Germany, The ex-troopers are an incredible testament to courage and determination.